Hi, I'm Evan Soroka of Soroka Yoga Therapy, and today I'm going to share with you 3 exercises I do non-negotiably every single day to help my spine health and my pelvic health. Although I'm a yoga therapist and I'm working a lot with the body, just the way things are these days, I'm sitting in front of a computer, so my hip flexors get really tight, and I also have disc degeneration in my lumbar spine, so whenever my hips and my legs are locked up, my low back starts to feel the brunt of it. So if you're like me with chronic pain, or if you're sitting in front of a computer a lot, or if you just want something really simple that's functional that you can intertwine throughout your day that just takes a couple minutes, this is the practice for you. So to begin, we're going to come up to hands and knees to a tabletop position, and we're going to be working here what kind of looks like a very slow cat-cow. We're going to be articulating the spine in spinal extension, so back bend, as well as spinal flexion, which is a forward bend. The difference is we're going to be articulating vertebrae by vertebrae. So to begin, we're going to bring attention to the pelvis, and I'd like you to try to tuck your pelvis under the body. You're going to do this by drawing your core in, tilting the pelvis back, beginning to round your low back, and then work your way up your spine. So you're going to kind of push into your hands a little bit, try to round the mid-back, upper back, and at the very end, just let your head gaze in between the thumbs. So you're not looking back at the knees, more of a neutral gaze. Now we're going to do the same in reverse, starting with the pelvis. So imagine your pelvis is like a pitcher of water, and you're tilting the pelvis forward. Keep your upper back and mid-back still. Let the lumbar spine, the low back, come into the back bend, and then progressively work your way up from the mid-back, upper back, the very end, the neck, and the chin will lift. So starting with the base, keep your upper back still, tilt the pelvis posturally, rounding your low back. This requires quite a bit of core strength, inner leg strength, and the mid-back, upper back, and the very end, your head. Let's do that once again. So keeping the upper back and neck still, tilt the pelvis forward. Feels kind of like a release, softening. Then the mid-back, upper back, and at the very end, lift your chin like you're pulling your sternum forward at the navel, lengthening the front of the body. Good. Now tuck the pelvis. Draw the navel in round your low back, mid-back, upper back, and at the very end, your head. While it's helpful to look in a mirror when you do this, it's, I think, even better to just keep your eyes closed and start to feel your body. With time, you'll be able to isolate each and every segment of the body. So now we're going to do that in reverse. We're going to keep the pelvis tucked, and we're going to start with the upper back and neck. This is a little bit more challenging, so start by lifting your chin. And now, here's the hard part, is the upper back, upper thoracic spine. So if you're pulling the sternum forward, let the upper back soften, the mid-back. This is really hard for me here. Expect it is for the majority of people. And then the very end, allow the pelvis to tilt forward. You're lengthening in the back bend, but you're not crunching, right? Really creating space. So let's start with the upper back again and the neck. So drop the chin, gaze between the thumbs, round your upper back, mid-back. Ooh. Feeling like I need to practice this even more. I know I do this every day, but maybe 2 times a day is where I need to be going. And then the very end, tuck the pelvis. Squeeze your glutes and hamstrings as you do that. It helps to pull the pelvis under the body. Now let's start with the neck. The head lifts, the upper back softens. A little bit of inhale there. Mid-back. Low back. Pelvis. Ooh. Okay, keep the low back pelvis as it is. Neck, upper back. So hard to isolate each side. I'm noticing this mid-body region is really tight for me. And I just want to use my low back. It's really slowing down in those areas. One more time here. Starting with the upper body, mid-body. Lower body. Upper body. Be patient. Okay, very good. And then release. So next we're going to work with a lunge variation to open the front of our hip flexors. The hips flexors are what help us to flex our hip. Naturally, if we're seated a lot, this is what gets very tight. Now, in order to open the front, we've got to really strengthen the back, the hamstrings, the glutes, and bring ourselves out of this anterior tilt that most of us are in habitually. So in order to do this, we're going to use 2 blocks here. And the way I'm going to situate it is one block on a higher height closer to my right knee, and then the other block at its longer length. Now, for some of you working on balance here, you might need to have a chair to support you using your hand. I'm going to tuck my back toes under here and then work my way all the way up to a lunge position. So notice how I'm not leaning forward, I'm pretty vertical here, directly over the right knee. Now find your balance by pulling the left foot back towards you. This is going to turn on your left hamstring and feel your left inner thigh drawing in. So you're pulling the leg into the midline, but also drawing the left hip back. Now fire up your right glute. This is the glute of your back leg. You can even bring your hand there and just palpate and feel that the 3 groups of gluteus muscles are contracting. It's going to help you to lift and to stabilize. And now take a nice long exhale. Really feel like you're zippering up the front of the body. The ribs are drawing in, and you're not going to lose connection with the legs. You're pulling back on the front foot, squeezing the front inner thigh, squeezing your back glute, and keeping it active. Now reach the right arm forward. And then you can even take your left elbow in by your side. So there's this just ever so gentle rotation component. It's not obvious. Very, very subtle. It feels like I'm turning my navel ever so gently to the left. Oh, really pressing my right arm forward and allowing for as much vertical space here. And you're breathing either Ujjayi Pranayama, nice long audible exhales, or you could purse your lips and exhale out your mouth. Really feeling that the exhalations compressing your navel and the inhales allowing for you to create more lift and length. Okay, good. Let's come out of that and we're going to switch sides. So try to get the same setup. Back foot tucked under, right foot forward. Everyone's got a little bit of different leg length. I'm only 5'3", so if you're taller, you might need to get longer with these blocks. Pull back on your front foot, turn on your right hamstring, and draw the right thigh bone back and the right thigh in, the inner thigh. This is the adductor. While you're pulling the right leg back, squeeze your left glute. This is going to help your pelvis become more level and support your balance. I definitely am noticing this is my weaker side because it's really hard for me to find the balance, and that's okay. I had an injury on this side a long time ago doing splits. I tore my hamstring, actually a very common yoga injury, tear the hamstring, and it's been many years of recuperating and reconnecting with the strength and stability here. I'm pulling my right elbow and reaching the left arm forward, long exhales here. Turning the navel just gently to the right. And it's always good to start with the foundation, connect with the bottom foot, the hamstring, left glute, navel, ever so gently turning to the right. Your gaze stays forward, you're opening the front of your hips. If this is easy for you, I'd love for you to leave a comment or a message, because I do this every day and it never gets easier, but I'll tell you, I feel so much better after I do it. Okay, let's release. So our next exercise is something called a hip car. And so it's like a capsule articulation. Imagine that this is the greater trochanter. This is like the top of your femur bone right here. And this is your hip socket, your acetabulum. So what we're going to be doing is working on rotating, internally rotating, externally rotating, and working into those corners where the pelvis and the thigh bone meet. Quite humbling, you get to see where there is maybe some limited range of motion, and wherever there's limited range of motion, we often have compensatory patterns. So it's a good way to check in and see how you can optimize things, especially in your hips and your gait. Come down to all fours. Press into your hands, so you're going to allow the space of your upper back to broaden, the shoulder blades to wrap down and around, and my pelvis is in a relatively neutral position, so I'm not collapsing, I'm really drawn in, but nor am I like really rounded and tucked, okay? I'm integrated. Now starting with the right leg, you might want to watch this at first. I'm going to lift the right leg up, and I'm going to bring it out to the side, kind of like a fire hydrant. But as I do this, I'm not going to lean over to the opposite side. I'm going to try to keep my weight pretty neutral. Now, this is the most challenging part here that I found is I'm going to rotate the knee down and the foot up. So what I'm doing is actually internally rotating, and then I'm going to sweep the leg behind me. Try to keep the pelvis level so you're not collapsing, drawing the navel, and lift your leg up as high as you can without back bending. You can see this is where I'm very limited in the front here. Opening, and now I'm going to squeeze my hamstring and glute and hover the knee above the ground. I'm going to do the same thing in reverse. So I'm going to lift up. Remember, you're drawing in so we can really get into the hips and not use the spine here. Now take the knee out to the side. Don't turn it out. Keep the knee facing down, and when you can't open anymore, then turn the knee out to the side like the fire hydrant. Ooh. And bring it back down to center. Okay, we're going to do that 3 more times, and then we're going to switch sides. I'm going to turn to the back just in case so you can see this a little bit better of an angle. I'm going to open the leg out to the side, turn the knee down, lift the heel up, slowly, progressively bring the leg to center, and then lower it down. Lift. Squeeze. Keep the knee in until you can't anymore. Then open the knee. That corner is really challenging for most people, myself included. I like to link these movements with one full breath. And to exhale as you lift up. Gentle inhales into the upper back. last side here. Okay, and we'll come back to center, and we're going to switch sides. The left leg, resituate yourself at center, knees under hips, hands under shoulders. Create some space and broaden your upper back. Now, let's open the leg out to the side, nice long exhale. Turn the knee down, foot up, and sweep the heel behind you, squeezing your butt, lifting the thigh. As you lower, you're contracting your hamstring and glute. This is where it's challenging for many of us. It's hard to lift the thigh without collapsing the low back. So really draw the navel in, lift the thigh. It's going to require a lot of hamstring strength and gluteal strength. And take your time in those corners. So last year I had a microdiscectomy on my lumbar spine of about 10 years of a recurring herniated disc. And first of all, I want to say this is an exercise I wish I would have been doing prior. I think it would have helped me maybe even reduce the risk for injury in the first place. But after the surgery, you're immobilized in your back, and what you end up starting to see is how there's a down trickle effect. And what happened for me is that I developed a hip impingement in my left hip here, and also knee tendonitis. So it was really showing me what was going on when I couldn't move my back, how my leg was definitely really related to some of these movement patterns. And all I'm trying to get at is, once I felt strong enough, I started doing these movements regularly, and my hip impingement's gone. Really take time with the corners. Be cognizant of every little movement here. You don't have to go big to make this effective. Yeah, I think we've done well more than 4 here. Let's finish this last side. Okay, Elise, go ahead and shake out your wrists. These are 3 exercises you can do regularly. Whether or not you're dealing with injury, this is a preventative strategy and something that you can weave in throughout your day. Thank you for joining me. If you like this content, please follow Soroka Yoga Therapy, leave your comment below, and check out my website for current yoga therapy programs and mentorships at sorokayogatherapy.com.